Welcome to the Ruden Report Podcast. Hi, I'm Dave Ruden, and continuing with the way we did this back in the spring, seems like Zoom is the way to talk to everybody now. For the time being, we're going to continue to do Zoom podcasts and actually may get to 2 a week, and we'll do one conventional podcast style and one Zoom style here. But I'm sure everybody was tired about talking about football in terms of will we have a season, won't we have a season, and it dragged on for about 5 or 6 weeks. Unfortunately, it looks like we're not going to have a season, at least not the way we had hoped for, not the abbreviated edition sanctioned by the state. I know there's still some schools that are looking into maybe having some sort of a private season, and we'll probably know about that in a few days. But right now I want to get away from football and open the first podcast of the season and talking soccer. FCX soccer is always one of my favorite sports. Boys and girls soccer is always competitive. And even though we're going to be in a weird season with pods and certain teams getting to play others twice and not seeing others at all, it should be a lot of fun. And we're finally going to have some games, starting with the girls opening on Thursday, the guys opening on Friday. A lot of good competition, and I figured the best way to start this all off would be to have the coaches of the defending FCX champions. So joining me today, we're going to have Trumbull boys coach Sil Vitiello and Staples girls coach Barry Beattie. We'll talk a little bit about their teams, how they're getting ready for this unusual season, the outlook, and all things soccer. We'll be back in a second as they join me. Okay, and so as we kick off here, our Zoomcast, podcast, whatever you want to call this, for the new school year, we're going to talk soccer. And leading off right now, we're going to go with the coach of the defending FCX boys soccer champions, and that's Trumbull. And joining me is Sil Vitiello. Sil, how you doing?
I'm doing fine, Dave. How are you?
I'm doing good. You look looking good there. You look like nice house there.
Thank you.
Yeah, you get to see what everybody's domicile looks like now in this new age. But what's going on with the Eagles since I saw you about a week ago?
Just preparing, doing a little training. We had a scrimmage yesterday at Bridgeport Central. Got to take a look at a few things and get ready for another session on Tuesday. And we have an opener coming up on Friday against St. Joe's. So, we'll take it from there.
What did you learn about yourself? I know when I saw you, it was all conditioning, and it was getting kind of boring and kind of hard to really get a read on your players. What did you learn about the team based off of yesterday?
Well, I think we're a pretty solid group in the back and in the midfield. Those two areas are led by a very solid senior group. You get a couple of juniors mixed into that group as well. And we also got to look at some of our younger players. We've got 5 sophomores on the roster, on the varsity roster. And the plan is to give them a little bit of time and to give them the opportunity to kind of grow into a varsity role. And I'm actually excited about the young group, and I'm excited about the senior group coming back. I'm just, it was a thrill just to get out there and play, to be honest with you. It was nice to get out, stepped onto the field, told my assistant, hey, we have a game today. And weren't sure if we were ever going to have that thought or that you ever be able to actually play in a match. So that in and of itself was just a good feeling.
Is it kind of a weird dynamic? I was over at Walton. I was talking to Edwin on Friday, just how you sort of have all this conditioning, and now it's almost like a sprint for a week just to try to, get everything into place and actually have contact and play real soccer to get ready for your opener.
It's so unusual. One scrimmage to get ready for a regular season. We've barely had any sessions with our regular group. And so the process is so different. You end up having to maybe run against your JV team to get some more answers or to get an idea of how different systems or formations might look. So yeah, that's going to be a little bit different. The format's a little different. We're all going to be in a postseason tournament if we get that far. So maybe we extend the preseason a little bit to get some more answers, and just the aim is to be playing your best soccer by the time the end rolls around. Really, I guess that's probably the most logical way to approach it, and to keep things simple. We don't have 2.5 weeks isn't a long time anyway to experiment with much of anything new. So you're gonna, I think, keeping things as simple as possible is probably the best approach.
Has it been very frustrating? I mean, everything's so different this year, and just the way you have such a longer preseason, but you get to do less in preseason than you normally do.
I wouldn't say frustrating. It's challenging. It's different. It forces you to think a little bit differently. It forces you to get a little creative. Our practices last week were just an hour and a half, so you're cramming. You're trying to get as much in as you can. You might get in a 2.5 hour session in the preseason, because those tend to last a little bit longer, into that hour and a half. And you trust your players who have played the game before to handle the situation. So to answer your question, I wouldn't say frustrating's the feeling. It's just different. It's a challenge.
What about your guys? How do they deal with it?
Oh, they're rolling with it. They're having fun. It's soccer again. They couldn't wait to get out on the field and actually competing. And we still have to mitigate as much as possible when we have our downtimes and our huddles and our talks and things like that. But when the masks come off and they're shoulder to shoulder with their teammates or another opponent, they're excited. It's soccer. At the end of the day, it's the game. And regardless of the situation, regardless of the schedule, once we're on the field and in between those white lines, it's the game that they love, and it's the game that I love to coach. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say I speak for a lot of coaches out there and players.
Is it what are you on to start? And you guys have the two-time defending champions and have won 3 titles, FCIAC titles in the last 4 years. Are you one to talk about goals, trying to win an FCIAC championship as you get closer to the start of the season? And how do you change that now that there's not an FCIAC championship to be won?
I think the approach is the same. We have no control over the schedule or anything that's happening out there. The only thing we can control is what we control. I know that's coach speak, I guess you can say, but the schedule is what it is. We have 10 games, and we're going to go out and we're going to try to win as many as we can. And if there's a tournament at the end, we're going to try to see if we can position ourselves to play at our best. We have last year to draw on. We got off slowly and we peaked out at the end. And I thought we were as good as anybody in the state, to be honest with you. And, I'm not saying we could repeat that level, but I think the idea is to maintain that as your goal. I don't see the approach to picking our team and the approach to the preseason hasn't been any different. So, the goals for the season, I don't think should be any different either.
I guess it's pretty much what everybody try to go 10-0 during the regular season, try to win whoever you end up playing and whatever the postseason experience going to be. Just try to win everything, and then whatever they call you, they call you.
Yeah, and it's going to be competitive. Even the other 3 regions. I mean, those are the Staples region, and having to go to Danbury and Richfield and Norwalk, I believe, and the Greenwich region, and it's the region all the way out to the west there. It's all competitive, and you still have to be prepared, and you owe it to your players. Those seniors, especially in our case, we have a good group of seniors who had to wait their turn, a lot of them, because we've had such a strong group these last couple of years, and this is their turn. And again, it's nobody's fault that we're under these circumstances, but we owe it to them to go out and put our best foot forward and see if we can get some results.
And the one good thing with boys soccer in the FCIAC is it's always loaded. I mean, you always go into the playoffs, and an 8 seed can give a 1 seed a lot of trouble. So even when you split it up, you look at your pod, and you've got the 2 Fairfield schools in there, St. Joseph, which is your big town rival, and then you have a real diversified pod because with the regionalization, you've got Bassick and you've got Harding and you've got Fairfield Prep. So for you, it's almost like a real schedule where you're going to get to play everybody.
Ours is very competitive. Going back to the 2 Bridgeport schools, there were games that we've had against Bassick and Harding that were competitive. Prep's an unknown. We know their history, so we know they're going to be a solid opponent. And we've had some epic games with Ludlow and Ward. Regular season, post, we've had crazy 3-3 ties up at Ward's grass field. The last 2 times we played them there, we've had a crazy result against Ludlow in the 2017 FCAC tournament. Played Ward last year in the championship game. So there are good rivalries within our pod as well. And I want to tell you something else. If we were having a full season, we saw Bridgeport Central. This is the best Bridgeport Central team I've seen in probably about 10 years.
Really?
So I know you always look for that dark horse in a full season. From what I saw, that could have very, very well have been that pick.
No, there are times they're a dangerous team. There are times you always play them and you see scores with 10 goals scored in there. They get you into playing wide open soccer when they have the personnel.
There's a lot of individual talent there. They're very fast and they're organized, and they do a lot of things well.
You've got some good personnel. I mean, you lost almost everybody, but you've become a Greenwich in some of these other programs that next man up. And obviously, if we talk about you, start with Carrigan Cullinan, who returning all FCAC player and can pretty much do anything you want him to do.
Yeah, he's our leader. He's our captain. He's a junior captain, and I look to him. I try to learn as much from him as I do anything else because of the trust that I have in him, and his teammates trust him, and he anchors the back for us, and he'll bring a couple of younger players along with him in the back. And I even told him if we could expand his role, we could move him up into the midfield if need be. And it's everything's very fluid with our group. But I do like our other seniors. Ethan David comes to mind. Michael Rizzo in the midfield. Cameron Holmes out wide on the right hand side. A couple of solid juniors. Phil Pires, Sean Brennan come to mind, and the sophomores I'm very excited about. So they're going to take their lumps, and I think we have to accept the fact that the younger guys are going to, they got a taste of what a high level varsity environment is on Saturday, and they'll grow into that. And so that's another part that's exciting about this is we do get to see kind of the next generation really emerge and develop, and hopefully we'll be able to maintain the level that we've achieved over these last 4 or 5 years.
Obviously, you have a difficult pod, but you've got good rivalries. With Greenwich, you have a great rivalry with Staples. You have a great rivalry with Wilton's, a team you probably want to play just because in a normal FCX season they're gonna be a contender. Danbury. I mean, we could pretty much go through everyone. Is it kind of frustrating just the regular season? Such a war in boys soccer in the FCX. Kind of frustrating missing out on that part of it still.
That's the saddest part. I'm going to miss lining up against Greenwich and Danbury and Ridgefield and Staples. Staples, we've had a great ride. We played them 5-6 times in the last 2 years, and it's the banter with the coaches is fun, and it's I get a lot of enjoyment. The players get a lot of enjoyment out of that. They circle those games on the calendar. There's a lot of respect, I think, between the programs. I know I have a lot of respect for all of those coaches and all those programs, and the fact that we're even in that group is something that we're proud of, and it's unfortunate, but hopefully 2021 we'll be back at it.
So what do you think? Trumbull the favorite in your pod? I guess I can't ask you if you're gonna go for a three-peat this year, I guess, but what about in your pod? You got a good feeling about how you guys can do?
I have a good feeling about. I'm not going to make a prediction on whether we can win it or not. There's 7 other teams in the conference that are going to have a lot to say about it. We start with St. Joe's, and they got a 0-0 last year and played extremely well. They came into the match very well prepared, and I expect them to be a little bit better this year. And Ward had heavy graduation losses, but Justin seems to just kind of reload himself. I was expecting Ludlow to be really one of the top 4 teams in the conference this year. I know they had a pretty young team last year, and they have one of the better players in the conference in Callum Crawford.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, and as I mentioned Central a little while ago, and we don't know what we're going to get out of Bassick and Harding, and Prep's history speaks for itself. And they're going to be excited too to come up in our conference and upend some of us. They're a strong SEC program, and I know they're going to be motivated. So it's pretty even, actually.
The good thing is you could go undefeated and can still no matter, or you can not win a game and you're probably next year still the defending FCX champion, aren't you?
I mentioned that. I mentioned that to our group the other day, and they got a little laugh out of it. So it doesn't quite count as a three-peat, but until somebody takes it away from us in the format that we're accustomed to, we're happy to hang on to it.
Yeah, I don't know if you go for a three-peat, but I think you're still defending FCX champions next
Right.
year, and we hopefully are having a normal season by then.
Yeah, and hey, I would happily give it up if it meant us being eliminated in a tournament in under normal circumstances.
Well, Sil, it's always good talking to you. It's always fun seeing Trumbull soccer, and I wish you success this season. I know I'll be out to see you sometime soon.
Perfect. Thank you, Dave, for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thanks, Sil. Take care.
Okay, you got it. Thanks. You too.
Okay, and we're back, and now we're going to segue from boys to girls soccer. And joining me right now, always entertaining, the coach of the Staples girls soccer team, defending FCX champions, and that's Barry Beattie. Barry, thanks for taking the time here.
No problem. Hopefully I'm entertaining in a good way.
Do you have enough Staples stuff on right now, or you got we got the hat?
I just came from work. I make sure I'm kitted out proper. I don't like coaching and not the proper attire, so I have to make sure that
you didn't. It wasn't like, okay, at 6 I got the podcast. Let me get all my Staples stuff on here.
No, if I was at home, I would not be wearing this attire. Trust me.
I'm not going to go and explore this line of conversation any further. So, I haven't had a chance to see you yet. How's the preseason going?
It's going well, actually. Yeah, the players are all pretty fit and everyone's back and ready to go. So, yeah, it's been going well. I'm just glad to be back coaching again full time. So, yeah, it's going really well.
How, it seems you can't get away from asking this question, but just, after having more weeks of conditioning than I'm sure you wanted and a short period of time just with contact and doing regular soccer skill work, how difficult has the preseason been for you?
I think it's been more tough on the players, honestly. Having to show up every day and do 30 minutes of fitness and conditioning has been tough. A lot of schools will be the same as my kids. Most of their kids will have already been playing contact, and most of their kids will have already been back playing soccer through all the summer. So it was tough for them to kind of take a step back and go non-contact again. And they have 18 or 20 days of practice of non-contact and fitness. The motivation was probably a little bit lower in some. They just show up and continuously do it. But the kids are happy to be back in proper now, and they get to scrimmage and they get to do all the proper work. So they're happy enough now.
What's the team looking like in terms from personnel? I mean, you lost a lot of players. I know of at least two very good ones you have back, but you got hit hard by graduation losses. And does that also change, just having some new players, finding out who's who in terms of this preseason?
Yeah, it keeps it refreshing as well. Anyway, for us, the coaches like to complain when they lose so many good kids, but the kids I lost are all excellent. They all served our program to the highest potential. They were very, very strong and took this team to many finals and had many good seasons in the regular season, stuff like that. So those kids will never be forgotten in terms of what they provided the program. But the new kids coming in are going to keep us strong for another 4 years anyway. So yeah, I can't really complain. I've got a bit of a conveyor belt rolling through Westport of just good kids constantly coming in, wanting to make the program strong. It's a rebuilding year, like it's always going to be for every coach who loses that many good starters. But in terms of the players I've got, it's a good group to work with. So I'm really excited for the next couple of years anyway. Obviously,
the two players everybody will be talking about first, you got Autumn Smith back. So how's she looking, and what are you expecting from her?
I've challenged her to score more goals. She got 16 last year. I challenged her to score at 16 this year. So I don't know what she had 24 games last year with 16 goals. I've challenged her to score the same 16 in 10 games. So we'll see how it goes. If she doesn't score those, then great. But I know she'll be annoyed if she doesn't. She's looking great in practice. She's looking sharp. Her abilities developed more, which is nice because it's a year down the line from what we've seen of her last time. So yeah, she's got a good year ahead of her, I think.
And then you got on defense, she'll get used to playing without her sister now, but you got Gabby Gonzalez back, who is just like a rock in the middle for you.
Yeah, she'll get used to playing without her sister for 2 years, and then she's off to Cornell to join her. So, yeah, Gabby's unbelievable. She's, in my opinion, the best defender in the league. And if anyone questions it, then toss a ball up into the air and let her go and hit it, and we'll see who wins that challenge. Yeah, I love coaching Gabby. She just nods her head and says, "Okay, I'll do it," and she just goes off and does it. We've got a couple of good kids that have come in. One sophomore center back, 2 freshman center backs, and actually 2 sophomore center backs and 2 freshman center backs. So competition they play next year is pretty tight. But yeah, they're all looking pretty strong back there, and being able to come in and play alongside Gabby in practice and learn beside Gabby in practice is very good for their development too.
So you're going to be starting some freshmen and sophomores, it looks like?
You know, I'm not afraid of that.
No, I'm not saying you're afraid.
I've always enjoyed taking younger kids at high school age. I always think if you're good enough, you play. It's not about your age or your seniority. It's if you're good enough, you play. And some of these incoming freshmen, sophomores I have coming into the varsity team are very solid and very good. So, yeah, I'm hoping that they can make some bit of an impact.
No, I mean, and that's where I was really going with the question is if they're that good to, be able to start on a program as strong as yours, that says something about them. And, you're going to have some kids that probably will be 3 or 4 year starters.
Yeah, it took 5 freshmen.
Wow. Who else?
Yeah.
Who are some of the other? I'm trying to test my memory. Charlotte Barnes.
Barnesy's there. Yeah, she's one of my captains. She's a striker.
She really came on the end of last year. She had some big goals for you in the postseason.
Yeah, Katie Alesio pulled her hamstring against St. Joe's at St. Joe's. So then Charlotte had to come in then and be the starting striker, and she really stepped up big. I think she scored something like 7 goals in 4 games. 4 of them were against Trumbull in one of the games, but she had a pretty good run all the way through to the FCAC final. So, yeah, she really staked a claim to stay in the starting lineup all the way through the rest of the season.
So anybody else we should be keeping an eye on?
Yeah, I always find it weird that no one ever mentions Lise Goldman.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
she's,
no one ever.
She's just sort of like solid and just does her job, I guess.
No, she's better than that. Come on.
No,
she started as a right midfielder for me last year. Played every single minute in an FCAC winning season. She terrorized left backs the whole season. So, yeah, she's still here. So we've still got her as an outlet, and I kind of hope everyone keeps sleeping on her. I kind of hope they do. Like if people forgot about her or whatever, I don't know what it is. But
there's certain players who are just so consistent that they just do their job. You kind of it becomes a given, which is both a compliment, but then they don't necessarily get the credit they deserve.
Yeah, that's fair. Actually, yeah, that's fair. But she's for sure a 7 out of 10 every game.
So how about getting from a competitive standpoint and having to get used to these pods as opposed to trying to play to defend your FCAC championship?
Well, there's 2 ways that we can look at it, right? All the coaches can say, we're just in our own divisions and we'll play this season. There's not going to be an FCAC champion, so to speak, for another year. So that makes me FCAC champion for at least another year, right? So everyone can remember that.
The first, I just talked with Sil Vitiello, the Trumbull boys coach, said the same thing. I said, you're the defending champions next year.
Yeah, we'll be the defending champions for another full year, which I'm okay with. But in each little group, even though the conferences are smaller and they're with their own divisions, they're still fairly competitive. Trumbull and St. Joe's playing the first game. Anyone that tells me that's not going to be competitive has lost their mind. Then Norwalk, McMahon, Wilton, Danbury, Ridgefield all in the conference. There's rivalries all the way through that. Like Ridgefield and Danbury already have rivalries. Us and Ridgefield, Wilton, Ridgefield are pretty much in them. Then the 2 Norwalk schools still get to have their rivalry with a trophy that they always do. And then you go to the other one and you've got the Stanford schools, Greenwich, Darien, and New Canaan. Yes, so it's fairly competitive across the board.
I mean, there's so much talent in the league. You're probably in I would guess, the most difficult pod just because you got 4 teams that were in the FCAC playoffs last year. So,
yeah.
And, I mean, it's unfortunate we're not going to have the St. Joe's, Ridgefield, Staples triangle, which last year was about as good as you could possibly have. But I know you and Ridgefield has been a really good rivalry the last 3 or 4 years, with a couple of state final games you'd like to forget.
I never forget those finals. I always said it, like, for my kids to get there, I'm happy enough. They got there, they competed the whole way through those seasons. Are we disappointed we lost them? Yes, we are, but we don't dwell on them. We just kind of move on, you know. Am I upset I'm missing St. Joe's this year? I would say no.
I think they would be the favorite right now if we were a regular FCAC. They would be the team to beat.
Yeah, because I think they only lost Hannah Hodges from their start in FCAC final.
I was at their practice last week. They got everything.
Yeah.
And
Jack will probably be a little upset that there's not a full season, because he could have won some stuff this year, I think, which is a bit of a shame in that sense. But yeah, Ridgefield will be good again. Wilton will be good.
Yeah.
So I'm happy enough. At least it's competitive, and the change in format is going to be a little bit more fun for the coaches. Because if I play Wilton at home and then 5 days later have to play them away, depending on the result of the game, we might have to make some changes, throw in a couple of little surprises here and there. So it's a little bit more fun in terms of for the coaches. They do some different work. Because if you play Ridgefield's first game of the season, you don't see them until the FCAC. It's a lot of time to develop in between. Back-to-back games, there's no room for development.
All your games are home and home games.
So it'll be fun. I'm just glad we're going to have a season.
What about the Ridgefield rivalry? Not to take away from anybody, because you all have, but for people who don't remember, a couple of years ago, and I think it was the first year Staples and Ridgefield got to the state final. Ian Golding, the Ridgefield coach, and Barry were housemates, and right now, after being as close as you could be, they're about as far away as you could be, because Ian, unfortunately, has not been able to get back from Scotland. So I know he's making sure he has good streaming of the games for the rivalry right now.
Yeah, Ian and I still talk regularly, just over WhatsApp, and he had texted me last week. I think his last text was about the live stream. Let me just check. I'm positive.
He texted me wanting to know if I knew anybody that streamed games.
Yeah. He texted me and said about give me a good time to call me, because he was looking for the live stream. So I'm gonna have to send him a link of that game only, though, not the rest, because he'll know him. He'll have the right Scout report written down it. But I'll give him the link of the Ridgefield game so he can't miss it.
Okay, he was actually asking me if I knew any companies that stream games, and I actually gave him a lead on 1 or 2 places. So
yeah,
I told him I'll be there, and I'll just hold my phone to the field, and he can watch.
Just put him on loudspeaker, and he can coach, and it's the American accent that he puts on. It's a shame. It's a shame he's not here for it, but his green card application's in, so fingers crossed all comes through right, and he's here for the long haul then afterwards, and he can move forward with his career.
So how about it's a difficult pot? Is it one of those things you hope maybe whatever this postseason experience is going to be, if you're fortunate enough to if they go and you play different pods, maybe getting a shot to at least play St. Joseph once? Maybe you're happy to avoid.
No, I made that clear already. I don't want to play them this year. No, I don't know I don't really know what's going to happen in terms of the developments of the season, but yeah, I'm happy enough that we have anything at all. It was pretty tough to go through the whole spring season and have nothing, and then get all the kids back into their club again in the summer, and have to kind of do it was almost like we were patching together a makeshift season just so they could have something.
Mm-hmm.
And it was good for the kids to get back out and have social development again, as well as the physical side of development and stuff like that. But honestly, it was tough. I was lost rhythm of coaching and stuff like that. It take 3 weeks to find your feet again coaching. That's why I'm so glad we're back with Staples every day, so I can actually get good again and start being decent at my job.
I mean, going back, can you ever remember a season. I mean, last year, you, St. Joe's, and Ridgefield all finished the regular season undefeated. Y'all tied each other. You end up taking first place because you had one fewer tie than the two of them did. And then, it's like a round robin in the FCX playoffs. You got St. Joseph, you beat in the final. And then, I mean, it was just really a lot of fun last year with that dynamic with you three teams in particular.
Yeah, I actually, that's the one thing this country lets itself down on. It's so focused on the playoffs that it almost loses the magic of the regular season. For one team to go undefeated, never mind 3 over 16 games, is such an achievement. For any coach to get their kids and any group of kids to play 16 games and go undefeated is such a huge achievement. So for 3 teams to do that in one season and tie each other, and it's like splitting hairs between all the teams, like that. I don't feel like enough is made of that. I feel like that's such a huge achievement.
I think I was at every game but where you guys played each other. It was just it was just unbelievable. It was teams that refused to lose. It ended up being teams that refused to lose.
Yeah, I mean, I love playing against all the good teams. Even the same at Glastonbury when we played them in states, because it's just whichever team takes that chance to get. Because
so, what else should we be looking for?
High tempo and whatever.
Okay.
In terms of what?
Nope, I lost you. You froze for a second there, so I wasn't sure if you stopped talking or. I should know you never stopped talking. I should.
If you ask me a question, I'll give you a good answer.
Yeah. So it sounds like the news out of Westport is some new faces, but don't expect the talent level to drop considerably this year.
No, I think it'll be a refreshed team. It'll be a new look, but we'll be competing. And I don't expect anything less from the group of players I have.
All right.
They're all trying to kill each other in practice just to get a spot.
Well, they get to start doing it on Thursday with Danbury, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's always fun talking to you. It's always a lot of laughs talking to you. And I'm looking forward to seeing you out there. I don't know when, but sometime soon. But get off to a good start. Thanks for taking the time here. And
no problem.
We'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Dave.
And that's the Ruden Report podcast for this week. I again want to thank my guests, Trumbull boys soccer coach Sil Vitiello and Staples girls soccer coach Barry Beattie. Be on the lookout. We'll have previews this week in the Ruden Report and coverage starting on Thursday for the season openers. Thanks and have a good week.